still present from years, and my gastritis is not healing, even months on meds. So, I mean, gastritis, inflammation of the stomach. And now it's, well, why is that inflammation taking place? Actually, there's some really cool labs that are available now that you don't even have to get a blood draw anymore, which is super cool. So we could do like a finger prick, food allergy test. We could even do a shoulder patch for blood work, just so that I could see some sugar markers, vitamin D, looking even at antibodies possibly too. But I would be avoiding gluten. I would be avoiding dairy, soy, corn, processed sugars. This is for Ziani. And then on, I would say aloe vera juice. I don't have that in the online store, but aloe vera juice mixed with some apple cider vinegar can get you a good starting point just to help the mucosal lining start to repair, to help more have like a laxative effect on that too, and helping bring inflammation down in the stomach and getting more stomach acidity, because you do need acidity within the stomach so that you can break down your foods and not bloat and have these crazy reactions. But testing by far is the best way to go about this. I would say you could start with the apple cider vinegar paired with aloe vera juice. I have so many people do that. That's where I started actually. But from there, in my bio, you would want to get albizia and chamomile. And if you guys are over on Rumble or YouTube, I'm actually going to pull up um, albizia and chamomile here. Oh, wait. Hold on. People can't see my face over on Rumble. There we go. I had the camera angle switched off, so people just hear my voice, I guess, because I see that's going well. But all right, let's talk about some albizia stuff, because this is by far the number one anti-inflammatory thing that I start people with and give out like crazy, because it's super powerful antihistamine and will work on the H2 receptors within the stomach as well. So you'll hear like mast cell activation or big key inflammatory terms. That's really all they are. Um, and it's a mast cell stabilizer with its mechanism of action there. So it can modulate histamine receptors, especially in the stomach. So very much along that same line of gastritis. Hey, let's reduce the inflammation in the stomach. Gastro, stomach, itis, inflammation. Um, and albizia is a great place to start. Again, though, testing's key. I love seeing vitamin D. I love seeing food allergies, even sugar too. Um, but like I said, cut out those foods. Start on some albizia. Start on some chamomile. Include the apple cider vinegar mixed with some aloe vera juice. That's a beautiful start. So glad you asked. And I forgot to pull up the slides over on Rumble and YouTube, so I'm sorry. But let's actually get this angled up nicely for us here. Cool. Very cool. And none of you guys let me know how the volume is. So thanks. Thank you, sir. You're very welcome. And if you got additional questions too, send me a message in the online store in my bio too. There's contact stuff for basically a free consultation for the first one. That way we can kind of go over some more things in depth, or if you've had blood work ran already, I'd love to see it. At least have some more info on you. But yeah, those things can go back to normal for sure. Hello from Trinidad. I feel like we've had a decent amount of people across the pond of all kinds. All right, let's go back to our messages here. Any new guys? Covered that one. Marty, thanks. Also, I was talking about this, I think it was yesterday or the day before. TikTok is like way different after this weekend. I don't know. People were saying the US bought them or something like that. I feel like TikTok is completely different now in just weird ways. Like my videos will post, but then they won't post because if I go on a different account, then go to look at it, nothing's in there. Are you a doc? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm a chiropractor. So all holistic approach here. Obviously not against medications or surgeries, anything like that. Um, which people kind of assume right off the bat, but that's not true. That's not true. There's just depending on the approach that you want to proceed with. Some people like just doing meds, don't want to change anything. Again, that's totally cool. It's part of the health freedom thing. If you're looking for causal factors of it, what can you do dietarily from a lifestyle standpoint or even supplementation and how to correctly go about that in terms of guidance? That's what we're here doing. So, but yes, as we await some new questions, I don't know. I feel like TikTok took a took a freaking left turn on everybody here with who's this? Monster Tamer? Hello? Taming the monsters. All right, we got another question in there. Causes of POTS. Causes of POTS are a little bit of a mix of deficiencies, which are really common. Deficiencies in magnesium, potassium, citrate forms of both of those. Um, but then there's an immune component to that too, most of the time. And I see that post vaccine, especially with COVID. I see that with GI complaints or even mold toxicity too. Um, the starting point is more of like, let's look at the GI because that's where a lot of the immune responses occur. So if you can dial in for that whole environment from mouth to rectum, basically, to say it no other way, you can fix a lot of barriers. You can fix a lot of opportunistic infections there because most issues are some hidden infection, and usually they're from a bacterial standpoint, sometimes fungal too, sometimes viral. There's obviously different kinds, but rarely is like heavy metal the number one thing. Um, I'm not saying it can't be, but rarely is that the primary thing going on. It's usually immune and deficiencies. So I would focus on potassium citrate, magnesium citrate. Link is in the bio. Just set up, shut up, just set up the shop pay thing too, so that I don't know if you guys know what shop pay is. It's like a super convenient way. I use it all the time. I get my coffee. I get my. I'm getting like a sauna from there, but it's kind of like a Shopify app sort of thing. Um, why is it confused with anxiety? Because of there can be an adrenal component there too. Um, Histamine and cortisol issues are a massive part of the beginning stage of getting these things to calm down. So, obviously, adrenaline or epinephrine and norepinephrine, like when you want to get in a fight with somebody, that feeling that you get when you're all shaky or like too much coffee, that's going to throw off your heart rate. But so can stubbing your toe on a coffee table. That could still elevate your heart rate. So, it's just that there's a lot of mental stressors nowadays with stimulation from your phone. Then you have histamine stimulation from inflammatory foods. That will change the environment within the brain. That will put you more on edge, make you more irritable because all these things are connected. Literally, you could put three pebbles in your shoe. And if you were not allowed to take that shoe off for the rest of the day, it's going to throw off your mood. It's going to throw off your blood pressure. That's going to change digestion. You can get hormonal problems down the road from just having pebbles in your shoe that you don't want there. So, um, a starting point. Actually, I have the slides over here on Rumble. So, starting points like the relax powder. I know you guys can't see these slides, but join us over on Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook if you want to see them. But yeah, relax. Magnesium powder, magnesium citrate, promoting relaxation, promoting sleep, supporting healthy digestive functions, obviously covering the electrolyte deficiency there, supporting muscle function, even smooth muscle as well, because it's going to hydrate the GI, relax the GI, and through that, you can impact other smooth muscle tissues as well, like the ones in your arteries. So, But yeah, and the heart's a muscle too. So that's why you can have cardiac benefits to doing some magnesium there, and it'll impact glucose as well. But um, we get to more. Rhonda, I'm going to get to your question. I was just answering Evelina's first. So, can it combine with other syndromes such as Ehlers-Danlos and chronic fatigue? So, POTS, to answer this question in the simplest way possible, all of those, including POTS, are autoimmune issues. So it's a matter of finding the immune triggers, and sometimes being stressed out all the time or being inflamed chronically can lead to changes with anxiety and issues with the adrenals. Like when you were saying, hey, is there like a cortisol connection here? There certainly is, totally. Um, and that's why magnesium, that's why potassium can help some of those things because you're going to be balancing a lot of fluids, um, which can reduce that inflammation very quickly. Um, Now it's not just stopping at the magnesium and potassium thing. That's just a starting point. Um, the real groundwork is done by getting some labs done. So, but if you go to the link in bio, you could see a little contact form. You could schedule your own call completely free, all on your own. Or if you want to just jump right to the store, you can get the magnesium and potassium and all that too. But Miss Rhonda, feel free to give us more details. Miss Rhonda, can elevated cortisol raise estrogen? Um, Number one, no, because it's going to pull away from estrogens actually. So you will get lower estrogens. Will that affect the hormonal system? 100%, because you're going to be one pulling away from that production of the estrogens. You're going to be holding on to more androgens. You're going to be holding on to more adrenal hormones that way. And the liver has to convert those into estrogen. So you're going to be getting lower and lower amounts of that. California poppy, a great blockade for this because you're going to be working on cortisol directly. And I would pair that with L-theanine, and then you can get not just the estrogens, but also progesterone to start to get higher and higher or restore there to normal amounts. Um, and if you're asking that because of an endometriosis question, that's usually one, GI related, and two, once you get more progesterone in the system, and pregnant women see this a lot too, you're going to see a massive reduction in the chronic immune things that you go through or chronic inflammatory things. Because, I mean, progesterone is very calming to the immune system. And that's why when you get pregnant, you get a ton of progesterone because your immune system has to pretty much pull back and calm down so that you can have a healthy baby, or else your body's going to attack the baby. So the body is super smart. Um, it all does that on purpose. So also in some women getting worse on her periods, yeah, because iron, iron utilization, saturation, ferritin is all going to change when you have your cycles. Holy crap, my voice is like destroyed these past 2 days. I probably just got to hydrate more. But yeah, for Evelina's question there, menstruation's a stress. It is a stress on the system, and you're getting rid of a lot of resources by doing so, especially red blood cells. Um, and now there's less cells to fight these battles for in regards to the antigens that you're coming in contact for or contact with. So, um, women that work out a ton, you'll all notice you cannot hit your PRs on day one of menstruation or day two or day three because it's going to fatigue you out. You're going to feel more symptomatology. Not that that's normal. You shouldn't have symptoms with your cycles, by the way. And estrogen's not even a hormone. There's like 3 of them and then 6 different metabolites that we all have to look at. So great questions, though. I love it. I'm going to check over on the other platforms here, see if we got any live chats coming in. All right, we're all good. So we're back to TikTok here. I have like 3 other platforms to my left. My hair looks like it's rock solid in the TikTok camera. All right, Rhonda, my blood cortisol is elevated and lining grew slightly. Lining? What was the lining in regards to? Lining grew slightly. I don't know what that means. Um, did I miss a question here? Haven't had other syndrome. Worse during their periods. Okay, I skipped over Amanda. Sorry, Amanda. I will come back to you. But Rhonda, blood cortisol elevated, and lining grew slightly. I don't know what you mean with the lining there. Do you mean the endometrial lining? Because then, yeah, that's endometriotic or some fibrotic tissue growth that's taking place. Could be holding on to androgens too. It doesn't have to be an estrogen issue. It could be some of the male dominant hormones there. Um, but yeah, best ways to get stress down: California poppy, L-theanine, pair those together. Link in bio. Trust me on that one. Okay, Amanda. Let's go back to Amanda. What is a good medicine for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? Accutane and soriatane damaged my gallbladder. So with Ehlers-Danlos, again, autoimmune presentation there. So you have to figure out the immune triggers and get chronic inflammatory stressors down. So albizia, nettle leaf, zinc from oyster meat, so you can get a proper zinc to copper balance ratio. Copper has a lot to do with that hyperlax ligament tissues. Also, different forms of collagen too. I have bone broth protein and zinc from oyster meat in the online store there in the bio, but we would have to look for inflammatory triggers. So get some zinc, get some bone broth protein, maybe do some albizia, and then book a complimentary call, and we can figure out the rest of that for Amanda. All right, let's go back to the monster tamer. Woman trying to get pregnant for 8 years, not ovulating. Ultrasounds are clear. Blood work is clear. I would want to see the blood work that you've had ran. It's not that you haven't had blood work ran. You definitely have. It's just usually it's not sufficient enough. It's not looking deep enough into why we're not ovulating. Ovulation heavily dependent on LH signaling. So you can do some tribulus during days 13 through 15 of your cycle to get a surge in LH and have good stimulation that way. And you could do Dong Quai during the first 12 days of your cycle. So Dong Quai, first 12 days, tribulus, days 13 through 15. That will build FSH and LH signaling properly. And then you can probably do some chase tree in days 16 through 20. You want to stop like 26 so that you can get the drop off in hormones so that we can get your brain to start creating a cycle, which is exactly what it will start doing. And then once we get those up and going, I would want to check a test from Precision Analytical that we can map out. It's called the Dutch mapping test, that we can map out these different signals and things in the urine and see how much communications from your brain to the ovaries. I would just want to know history of birth control, a couple other things. So, but yeah, other than high testosterone, what can I do? So you'd want to do some white peony there, and that is definitely why you're not ovulating, because you're ovulating cysts most likely. So again, some Dong Quai and white peony and tribulus. So link in bio. But also, I want to speak to you on the phone, so at least book a free call. And yes, we could cover some of those things. But okay, North of Olive, cool name. Do you recommend getting pregnant while having H. pylori? Tried ABX and it didn't work. The trouble there is that you're going to have an infection. And then if you do get pregnant, your immune system is going to get more suppressed. So that can be a potential major issue there. not a potential one. It will be an issue there. So yeah, the H. pylori you want to start working on. I would start with this freaking voice is going. It's going on me. Some betaine HCl. Again, online store, link in bio. Some betaine HCl, so that I think I put that in the description of the live, so you should be able to see that when you join. Um, betaine HCl. Let's do some licorice in there too, because that will help out the stomach lining a ton, and probably slippery elm and chamomile. But let me know some more details if you got them. Somebody asked, cycles are normal, but ferritin is low. So I would, again, want you to start doing some betaine HCl so that we could just get stomach acid high enough. That way you can get enough B12, you can get enough iron absorption and all the good stuff there. And then you would want to do like immune glandular. I have 2 more on the shelf, actually. Immune glandular, twice a day, and that'll have spleen, liver, and thymus in there so that you can get the most amount of iron, because I don't want you taking like iron in isolation there. You're just not going to absorb it well. You're going to feel nauseous. You're going to have black poop. It's going to be very weird. But yeah, that's probably the best way to start building up iron stores is get stomach acid higher and then get the constituents into the body that are going to have the most nutrient dense pieces of that. Miss Betty, I don't know how to pronounce the first screen name there. So Miss Betty, I skip the gym completely. There is no way. I'm infusion dependent anemic though. Okay, so heavily anemic. A lot of anemia today. Again, immune glandular. Immune glandular paired with maybe not betaine HCl. If it's this severe, you would want to do something like Digest Well that will have apple cider vinegar in there and betaine HCl, just smaller amounts. And then again, the licorice. Again, the licorice, because that's also going to help with the fatigue aspect of things. So, like for licorice specifically, sorry, I keep clicking random buttons and things. Yeah, and it's an herb, a liquid herb, but it's an adaptogen. So obviously, will be anti-inflammatory with different constituents in there, like triterpenoid, saponins, and things that can increase aldosterone, can increase cortisol, and it's not going to push cortisol. So I know people are like afraid of that word. I wouldn't take licorice before bed, that's for sure. And obviously, anybody who's pregnant doesn't really need this. If you have high blood pressure, you don't really need this. Um, but it can help that stomach lining out a ton. So, usually, some microbial issues at the source of most people's problems in the first place. So, with that assumption and knowing what I know, I would start with those. So, Digest Well, the immune glandular, and some licorice, link in bio. Okie dokie. Other than high testosterone, what can I do for that? High testosterone, too, you want to aromatize this. So drop your sugars, increase fiber, soluble and insoluble fibers, do tons of sauerkraut, and get some white peony. But Evelina, I have given you kind of a couple different things. So if it's getting confusing, let me know. All right. Okie doke. Okay. Checked on Rumble, back to TikTok. Amanda says Darier's disease, not Ehlers-Danlos. Way different. Way different than Amanda. She said, okay, will do. Thank you. So don't order anything yet because you just corrected me there. Darier's not Ehlers-Danlos. Very different. There's going to be issues with calcium. This is connected to some genetic things here, but your gene expression can change when you change the environment. So I'd want to do a Genova um, methylation test so that we can look at the gene expression there, and pretty cost effective way of going about that. I do want you to start doing some astragalus because that can help with modulating intracellular calcium issues there. Magnesium as well. So the relax powder, both those, astragalus and the magnesium, online store there, and you could do some K2 as well so that you can direct that calcium into the bone. But that's really only while we're trying to figure out the chronic immune things. Again, I would approach the anything genetic or issues like that the same way I would approach anybody that's autoimmune, because if you don't figure out the immune triggers, you're not going to calm the nervous system down, and you're not going to calm the immune system down. And those two systems are primary, and those two systems change every other system in the body. So you got to look for those, nervous and immune. If you learn anything from today's live, it's that right there. Thoughts on oxalate sensitivity? Certainly a thing. Certainly in some people. I think the confusion stems from not knowing that plant food is going to have to be broken down before we eat it because it has some defense in there, um, or defense chemicals. So you want to be getting fermented or pickled veggies most of the time. If it is issues with calcium or oxalate crystals there, nettle leaf like crazy, probably 3-4 teaspoons a day of nettle leaf and cat's claw. And you will see those things resolve very quickly. But I would probably want you to get a food allergy test there as well, and I'll do that all for you. Um, and maybe we just throw that all on your complimentary call. Do it that way. Mr. Edward, I've seen in here prior. I don't know how to pronounce things. That's all right, man. I'm not perfect. I'm a human, you know? Is not showering for 1 year healthy? I don't know, to be quite honest. I think not actually that okay, we got a question from YouTube, so I'm going to hit you back for Abdullah. We're going to get to this question after I answer this one. You do want to have good hygiene. Let's just be very clear, because I said I didn't really know before or whatever. I'm just reading all these chats at once. So sometimes things are all over the place. You do want to shower. You want to shower probably every 2-3 days. Showering every day, unless you're doing heavy athletics or something like that, you know, um, you're going to have some microbial overgrowth within the entire body there and outside the body. So take showers. Take showers, brush your teeth, floss, do all that stuff. All right. Question from YouTube. Any tips on maintaining focus? This is going to be heavily dependent on sleep, on sugar intake, and dopamine. And so, like, obviously, reducing sugars is going to be a great thing to do. Um, if you have trouble with that, can you do some gymnema? Can you get fibers up a little bit more? Yes. I would like to see somebody doing Mucuna seed so that you can directly get the precursors for dopamine. Mucuna seed, it's basically a velvet bean. And by far the most nutrient dense, most affordable way to fix any trouble focusing issues, or kava in excess. But I think Mucuna seed is just the proper way to go there. Why that is, though, number one, we eat a lot of inflammatory food as human beings, especially in today's world. Two, the amount of scrolling that we do with short form content, it is frying dopamine reserves like crazy. So, watching some of that can definitely help. But in the bio there, or if you're on YouTube, the channel page, you have to be in the US to get stuff off the store, but it's on there. So, all right. I'm going to do a little bit of a break intermission here. I just have to run to the bathroom. I have to pee really bad. But I'm going to basically save my place here, and we will be back, obviously, on YouTube and all the rest. I'm just going to put a little screensaver up, and then, like I said, we'll be back. I've been drinking a lot of coffee, and not enough salt. So um, I'll be like a minute. Let's let's get back into the swing of things here. Okie doke. Looks like you guys are still here. Good to see. Um, but yeah, we handled some questions over there on YouTube. And all right, we left off on the. Sorry, my hair is looking wild right now. We left off on the showering question, which, as it turns out, it's good to keep up with hygiene. Hey, is starting my science pre med courses in my sophomore year in college bad? No, that's actually genius. Keep going. Crunch that time, baby. Okay. I'm sorry, I did not catch what you said about the labs. Dang it. So, the only thing on my lab was my testosterone was high. So, that's why you're not ovulating, because you're ovulating cysts instead of follicles right now. But yes, still Don Quai route. First 12 days of the cycle, can do some tribulus, days 13 through 15, and then some white peony. Actually, I'm going to change my answer. White peony throughout the entire month. So, link in bio. Um, Greetings from Norway, across the pond. My goodness. Can it be harmful for women to maintain 12 to 15% body fat long term? I would say that's the lowest I would want to see it, but I think it's doable. Yeah. Everybody's a little bit different there. So, what's the mold test called and how much is it? Let me look that up right now. Um, I mean, I think I remember it, but I don't want to quote you wrongly. Um, this is if you're in the US, it's obviously going to be different pricing than if you're outside the US because all the labs are in the US. So, but we can do them still. I'm just pulling up my lab manual because I have like 8 different lab companies that I work with. So let's go here. Sorry. Pricing sheet. There we go. Perfect. Okie doke. Mold test is Mycotox 280. 280. Not too shabby. Um, so yeah, mold test, mycotox test, 280. Emily, so someone who sleeps poorly, has ADHD, and likes snacking on sweets will not have great focus 100%. You would want to obviously reduce the sugars there, limit screen time. I think EMF remediation is definitely worth it too. You can take some Gymnema and you can do some Mucuna seed, and that will help with both of those things, the sweet reception and the dopamine issue too. I think sleep is a big part of this as well. But Lillian, do you think, Doc, it's a good idea to stop my dental school and live with my family in Europe? I don't know. That would depend on your situation there. All right. I fell before 5 months. Still burning pain in the knees. It feels like somebody put spice in my knee. What do I do? Hmm. Yikes. I would want you to go see somebody in person and get some imaging done. That's what I would want. So sad when the coffee's almost out. Tear rolling down my face, you know? Okay. What else? Emily, you pay small healthcare fees, about $300 a year. Yeah, I've had a couple patients tell me that too. But the quality of the care is meh, you know? Because I still have people reaching out from New Zealand, from Europe, from all these places that are trying to get this type of healthcare. It's where you can take medicinal herbs, glandulars, medicinal mushrooms, and pair that up with labs that are going to look at more than just a CBC and a lipid panel. Um, but yeah, I can't live without caffeine. This was after I mentioned over on YouTube here. I can't live without caffeine. Even with 8 hours of sleep, I still need that boost of energy. Any tips? Yeah, I think when people are heavily reliant on caffeine, it's usually an issue with the adrenals. So I would wonder, are you in school? Are you working night shifts? Are you like, what is throwing off your circadian rhythm? I would want to know how sleep patterns have been going, but with the assumption that you're just heavily reliant on it because of a lack of production from the adrenal glands, you can do some adrenal glandular. Um, I only have one of these left on the shelf, so uh, grab it while you can. But it's basically adrenal gland tissue and liver in there that's going to give you all the constituents for those things, but also a bunch of precursors for building adrenal hormones, and very cost effective way to go about that. Um, but good question, man. I love coffee too. There's nothing bad with loving coffee. I'm a coffee lover as well. I'm actually looking at I want to get this fancy espresso machine because I hate taking the time to make coffee. It drives me nuts. Especially when you got to clean something out and like a French press, you got to do all this boil water and everything. So I just want to have it grind it, click a button, boom, nice creme of the creme on the top, and all the good stuff. Tammy, interesting question. Is there a permanent psych facility? Is that what you're asking? I don't know, to be quite honest. I have no idea. Emily, any tips to manage orthostatic hypertension? Yeah. So I would wonder, number one, if you meant to say hypotension, because if you have POTS, it's typically going to be hypo. But I'm not going to answer that until Emily gives us more info. Emily, did you mean hypertension or hypotension? In the meantime, let's talk about Alba's question. I took Plan B probably in my ovulation period. Will it work? Good question. um, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. But that's a really good question. Honestly, I hope it does. I hope it does. If that's, your goal. Um, I don't know though. I don't know. Sorry. Sorry, Alba. I wish I could give you a straight up yes or no, but okay. My period is 40 days late. I'm not pregnant. I would want to know how old you are, number one. And if you've seen cycle dependent issues or if you've had, you know, history of mental stress that was maybe unplanned for or in excess amounts than what we were planned for. Can you would want to do some Dong Quai right here because that's going to allow you to signal FSH, which will pretty much tell your brain, hey, it's time to start the follicular phase of your cycle. And usually longer cycles, FSH is the problem. Um, and maybe it's not FSH directly, but it's a communication between the brain and the ovarian tissue. So, can you do some female glandular? Can you do some California poppy along with that Dong Quai so that you're affecting the adrenal glands, pulling away from cortisol or stress issues that can be depleting a lot of the um, not FSH signaling, but hormonal reserves, which can be very low. But yeah, I would want to know how old you are. If you're getting toward that menopausal age, then we're going to have to dive into doing some blood work, something like a Dutch test, probably just blood work, honestly, because for cycling females, a Dutch is by far the best thing you could do. But um, if you're not cycling and you're getting toward that menopausal year, or okay, 24, so maybe you came off birth control recently, um, let us know. Alba says it's okay. Oh, the birth control question or Plan B. Same thing. How can I? Okay, wait. Emily, and then we'll get to love yourself more. Emily clarified and said, any tips managing orthostatic hypotension? So it was hypo after all. I'm glad I probed you on that, Miss Emily. Salt intake and your minerals. So Celtic sea salt, I have it in the water I'm drinking. I have it in the coffee that I'm drinking. I have it in everything that I drink because you're going to be able to balance fluids. You're going to be able to allow water within the cell because you need sodium and potassium to exchange that cellular fluid. So salt is extremely important, not like table salt from a diner for crying out loud. Celtic sea salt or pink Himalayan because it's unbleached. It's not processed. It's basically from the earth. The closer you can get to a farm or directly to the earth, that's what you want. Along with that POTS history, I would like you doing some potassium citrate here because you're now going to have sodium and potassium in sufficient amounts. And really, sodium, you're looking for about 5 grams a day. I drink a lot of water. So I don't think that, I think that you're drinking dead water. When you're just drinking plain water and there's not some other constituent in there, like lemon juice or salt in there, there's no electrolytes binding that water to anything. So your bladder is going to fill very quickly. You're going to be running to the bathroom very frequently to pee. Again, aim for that 5 grams of salt per day, probably doing about 2.5 grams added to your water because you're going to be eating food. So you're going to have to account for that too. I would say about half of that is going to be achieved through food. The second half of that you want to be adding to all the water that you drink, all the coffee that you drink, um, and potassium citrate. Oh my goodness, link in bio, please. Potassium citrate. Um, Aside from that, like you can do um, probably some ashwagandha because it's going to be more of an adaptogen for blood pressure. Actually, scratch the ashwagandha. Do a little bit of. This is why we want labs because I have to guess with you, right? Um, get some potassium citrate. Get some magnesium citrate. It's called Relax. Link in bio. Get your Celtic sea salt and book a complimentary call and completely free. We can go over all this and figure out what you should be doing specifically, Miss Emily. So, great questions though. I'm always going to try to give away as much value as possible. Um, but yes, man, I think I have my last sip of coffee here. So sad. I have some lion's mane in the bottom of this too. Let's get those little grinds up in there. Some lion's mane will give me the fuel to answer these questions for you guys. Okay. Where did we leave off? Hypertension, 40 days late. Okay. We've got love yourself more. Excuse me, I hate burping on stream. That's so gross. Either way, I haven't eaten anything, so give me remorse. How can I check my hormones? My doctor says you don't need them. I hear this way too often. Um, but I mean, the understanding portion of this is that when you're going to a fire department, it isn't their job to rebuild the house. It's their job to put out any fires. So if there's a fire occurring, they can do medications, they can do surgeries. That is fantastic. I would want you to get those things. If you are having a stroke right now, please call 911, go to the fire department, get the axes and hoses, the drugs and the surgery. Not taking shots at it, not against it. There's a time and a place, 100%. However, with something like a hormonal issue, I would want to know your age because that will determine what type of lab is most valuable. Not knowing anything about your age, I would want to know blood work and urine so that we can get production and conversion of those hormones looked at. If you are getting toward menopausal years, let's just do the blood work because you're more than likely going to be deficient and it's probably not going to be a conversion issue, to be quite honest with you. So that would be my answer there. And that will heavily determine price on those labs. So if you are getting toward menopausal years, you're 35, you're 38, 42, getting there. We can do what's called a bio box through Access Labs. Okay, you're 26. Scratch all that. Scratch all of that. You would want to do a Dutch test. That's $355. Send me a message. I'll get that ordered for you today. Even if you're in Canada, actually, you can order those. So, fun fact. And then back to Glory. 2 with a heart. Israel. I'm very stressed for sure. So then, by far, the number one thing that I use for stressed out people is going to be Alcidonia, which is a couple different complexes of B vitamins, especially B6, and then L-theanine in there as well, passion flower in there as well, and a couple other things. But very relaxing. GABA's in there, bunch of good stuff, and it's just a capsule, so you don't have to drink disgusting liquids or anything like that. So, Aruna, lower back pain for 4 months. Should I do an MRI of the back? I would want to know what you've did, who you've seen, because there can be some things that you could do at home. I mean, I myself take care of my own spine. being a chiropractor, I think is extremely important. I think we all need to reduce physical stress to impact the other body systems because the nervous system pretty much overrides everything along with the immune system. It's not the only thing, but inversion tables, rebounders, vibration plates, cervical dental rolls, pelvic blocking, fantastic ways. Even sauna, using a sauna, all these things can massively impact one, the nervous systems, but two, all the other systems too. Especially if you're not detoxing well or you're trying to move lymphatics, those vibration plates, those rebounder trampolines are all going to impact you a ton and benefit the body physically too, whether it be spinal health or other joints and other tissues too. So, Aruna, give us more details and we can dive into that more. I'm just going to quickly pop over to other platforms, make sure I'm not missing other questions. We don't want to ignore anybody, right? All right, we're good here. Cool. We got some people hanging out in the YouTubes and the Rumble page. I think okay, so she said I'm 24. Okay, I already addressed that one. Okay, Nikki just turned 43. Periods are getting lighter. What could that be? Yeah, we're getting some long-term stress. So L-theanine, California poppy, get the cortisol and the adrenals start to regulate some things, help you stop producing excess amounts of adrenal hormones. That's going to depend on your life, on your relationships, on your kids that stress you out, on all those things. And FSH tends to start to struggle with enough signaling there. So I would do some female glandular in the online store there. I'm actually completely out of stock, so not a good time to buy it right now. But female glandular is so that you can get ovarian tissues into your system and have a lot of the constituents and building blocks to make estrogens, to make progesterone, and all those things. But getting the stress down is number one. So you could do California poppy, L-theanine, some black cohosh, some Don Quai root. You'll help sensitize the ovarian receptors, create more estrogens, signal from the brain to the ovaries, and have less cortisol being excreted out. So you'll get more hormone production. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay. Emily, fainting and convulsions are very distressing and particularly troublesome in public settings. Yes, 100%. Um, wow. So thanks for additional details there. I did not know about these. Um, with the fainting thing, obviously the blood pressure issue is going to be a big thing there. There's been some immune irritant that, yes, obviously the mineral story is completely true there. Um, but there's some immune irritant that is not allowing you to maintain blood pressure for one thing, but then it's throwing off from the immune response to some nervous system responses here and changing blood pressure and circulation. So, but yeah, somebody's knocking at my door now too. All right, I gotta answer my door, and then I'll be right back again. Shoot, I haven't been showing you guys any of the slides. All right, I'll be right back. One more time. One more time. My goodness. Holy moly. Freaking, so many interruptions during today's live. All right, I'm back. Let's see who's in the Me Carolina. Hello, hello. I've seen you in here before, so glad to see you're back. For the people over on TikTok that you can't see this going on, I basically have Rumble, YouTube, Facebook all pulled up, and as I explain a lot of the supplements that I'm talking through, I'm pulling them up over on YouTube, so you could get all the info that I'm basically giving you guys here. So, YouTube, Dr. Antonio DC, you'll find me on there. But let's see where we left off. Jen popping into the chat. Good morning, Jen. It is afternoon here. So, what is it? 2 o'clock? So, but you're over on the West Coast, so that's fine. I know I should have thought about that. Does very low vitamin D make it worse? Yeah, because you need vitamin D to regulate T cells. So if you don't have enough and you have an autoimmune issue, you're not going to be regulating T cells at all. Or you still will be, but to a much lesser degree. And then you're having immune responses like crazy to all these different places. So where did I go to school? Undergraduate school was King's College, graduate school, Logan University in Missouri. So nobody on the Facebook stream just yet. Kind of surprising because my Facebook's been blowing up like crazy for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of TikTok taking a poop on me. I think after the US bought it, like something changed within TikTok because I'll have basically, I don't know, weird platform issues with posting or whatever. All right. Thanks. I appreciate it. Boom. 26. I will. Thanks. Heck yeah. Thank you, Uzma. Wellness Way Appleton popping in here. Today's been massive for patient wins. I love hearing that. The Wellness Way Appleton is actually where I started my career. So actually the second largest clinic in Wisconsin there, which is right where the Wellness Way started, right there in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So can you make a Kix elixir for my cat to live forever? Interesting. Sorry, I got to verify the screen here. All right, we're back. My CRP even is higher, and she said, I don't know what's causing this. She did some blood tests. Everything is normal. So if you have CRP elevating, you have an infection. More than likely within the GI. Definitely need to send a message to me here so that we can order you a stool test. No appreciation for my likes to the video. I do appreciate you, Miss Hannah. I'm looking at the chats on my computer, so I have like 5 different screens here. So it's kind of hard to keep track, but I do appreciate you very much. Thank you very much for the likes. Much appreciated. Okie doke. How to treat heat rashes in pregnancy, 33 weeks. I would probably do some Albizia so that you can get histamine down. If when you're pregnant, you're going to have some immune issues because of the baby in there and because of progesterone. So you'll commonly see this throughout pregnancies, mainly trimesters 1 or 3. But yeah, do some Albizia and links in bio. You can get her there. Oh, I know one of your buddies. Nice. Which one? So what kind of doc are you? And where are you practicing? I'm a chiropractor and practitioner for the Wellness Way, so all holistic health here, doing functional labs and then utilizing medicinal tinctures, mushrooms, glandulars, isolated nutrients and things, only on particular times, but yeah, basically rebuilding the body from the inside out. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the fire department approach or like a general typical medical approach to where you're doing medication, surgery, those types of things. But yeah, it's just a different form of care for people to get when they're not finding answers and basically dealing with unanswered concerns there. The Wellness Way South Jordan, Dr. Don. Nice. Dr. Don has awesome energy, I will say. And I'm in New Jersey, actually. For asking for the where I'm at location wise. But yeah, I got to get better at showing the stinking slides for what I'm talking about here. Because I got all of these. See, Stragglers, boom. I know only the other platforms can see it, but we came prepared today. Came prepared. I'm a second year resident in the CCU. I don't know. What is that? Is that a joke? Ooh, coronary care unit. Man, that's pretty heavy. Yeah, I just saw that come in. Well, I'm glad you're seeing Dr. Don, man. Figuring some of the stressors out here. Starting to find the causes. Certainly great. Man, how long have we been going here? Only an hour. Basically, the cardiac ICU. Yeah, I bet. I bet. My CRP is high. My doc did more blood tests. Everything looked normal. What can cause this? Yeah, it's your GI. You have an infection in the GI. So blood work really isn't going to find why that's happening. But click the link in bio, schedule a complimentary call. We can order that for you. I saw rate-dependent electrical QRS and T waves, alternans without WPW. Woof! Man, you've been learning your stuff over there in that cardiac unit. That's some pretty hefty info. All right, we caught a little latent period. I get to stretch out a little bit. Oh man, get to stretch out. Grab some water. Let's see. Still people chilling over on YouTube. It was alternating bundle branch blocks. Woof, man. I'd wonder what you've been doing for it. I'd be curious. Actually, gonna grab more water to my left. I gotta grab a new 5-gallon jug from Mountain Valley, actually. Mic's still working. But emergency EP study. Oof, man. Hefty. Hefty stuff, my man. All right. What else? What else we got? Do I have any other updates for you guys? I mean, X-ray room coming along. Again, still got to get on the phone with the X-ray people and my electrician, see what needs to be done in regards to that. It's a bunch of fun that gets planned there. Also got plumber coming in to put the sinks and install them so that people can come in here in person. Because I have a bunch of New York people that are like, I want to actually go there. So we're getting there. But yes. Funny part was the patient was completely asymptomatic. Dang. I have a small fracture in my spine from a horse injury. What's the best rehab to get back to riding? Well, I would have to see what that looks like there and where it's at. I think, there's some benefit to some bracing for a short period of time. I do like Boswellia for some of that healing process and bone broth protein so that you can get good constituents from bones put into your body there and put them to use. And obviously, depending on how acute this is, I would wonder when that happened. That's going to determine a lot of what we do is going to be determined on how soon this was, how long ago this was. Do I have X-ray techs look at the X-rays? Not every time. If something's questionable, I will. We've officially run out of coffee. So sad. Man, you're very welcome. All right. Good stuff, hey? Caroline, chilling after work. Finally, I can be, because now it's 8 p.m. Holy moly. Where are you from in the world, Miss Caroline? That is crazy. 8 o'clock. Woof. It's only like 2 p.m. here. No, not to look at it, but actually set up the patient, help with the x-ray. Oh, no. I do all that myself. So, all right. Well, good stuff, people. That was a good live. We hit a little latency patch here. So, I'm going to try and, all the way from Poland. Dang. My goodness. That's a ways away, huh? But yeah, I'm gonna try and jump back on later. I obviously have a bunch of stuff to do today, patient wise, and doing some back end things. So, but yes, let me know. Send me messages. Obviously, things I mentioned are available in the online store. If you want to speak to me on the phone or through a Microsoft Teams meeting, if you are from Poland, we can still do that. So, but yeah, as always, stay healthy, stay free, and we will hopefully be back later on today. So, see you guys.